All right, guys, we're back with another episode of the Steroid Bootcamp. Today we are on part 9 of the 20-part series. 9 is going to be monitoring health markers while on, when, and what to test. A very important segment of this camp. So without further ado, let's get right into this. Let's make sure this is all good, perfect, amazing. All right, so 9, monitoring health markers while on, when, and what to test. So first off here, why ongoing monitoring matters. This is the whole point of my fucking Instagram. I warn everybody of this in all my fucking videos. Get your labs done. Monitor your fucking health. Without health monitoring, you're fucked. You're gambling. You're guessing what's going on internally in your system while you're on these compounds. Keep in mind, anything you take will come with sides. It is toxic as fuck. Whatever you take, whether it's high dose test, whatever it is, even a low dose, it's still going to cause some type of toxicity in your body. That's why health monitoring is very crucial. So first off, steroids shift multiple health systems simultaneously. Your lipids, blood pressure, liver, kidneys, and hormones. All this shit's going to take a hit. Regardless of what you're taking, it will have some type of strain while you're on, specifically a blast. If you're taking testosterone replacement therapy, HRT, then the whole point is to have this simulate a natural test production. So you shouldn't be running into stress while taking TRT, but this is specifically for a blast context. Now, why it matters, catching early issues allows adjustments before long-term damage occurs. I always go over this shit too. That's why you want to stay on top of this shit. The whole point of taking a blast is to get the gains, get off without that long-term damage. If you're allowing these compounds to be in your system, causing massive toxicity, not knowing what's happening, you're allowing this damage to accrue up without you even fucking knowing. And by the time you know what's happened, whether it's arterial plaque, cardiovascular issues, organ damage, it's going to be too fucking late. You already have the issues, the gyno, the fucking whatever it is, okay? You want to ensure your cycle runs safely and progress is sustainable. That's another reason why monitoring absolutely matters. It's also for your progress. Make sure that you're getting the gains, the shreds, without some shit going wrong. Now, frequency of testing, another very important part here. So, baseline labs, you want to run this before the first pin. Of course, you always want to get your prior set of labs done so you understand how your body's reacting before the compounds. You want to know what your natural baseline is with all your hormones, how your organs are, how your blood is flowing. You want to make sure that your body's good and in a good position to take this shit. Because if you do have pre-existing problems and you hop on a blast, it's gonna make things a lot fucking worse. And that's when you can run into very fatal outcomes. So your early cycle check is going to be the next set of labs. It's about 4 to 6 weeks in. This is all the mandatory checks, by the way. This is all, I always get my clients set on this specific schedule. It's either 3 labs at the bare fucking minimum, or this is the next best thing. I do have some clients taking their bloods every couple weeks. So it really is based on personal preference, but this is the most risk adverse way to do it and just the safest way to go about stay on top of your health. So your early cycle check, again, 4 to 6 weeks in after your steady state blood levels are in. That's going to be after the cycle's fully kicked, after all the compounds are fully peaked in your system. You're going to get a really good look at how the cycle's reacting after that 4 to 6 week mark. Now, the mid-cycle check is going to be around weeks 8 to 10, and you're going to adjust if needed. Of course, if your blast is a little longer, a little shorter, you're going to have to adjust that. This is the mid-cycle check. So this is going to be when everything is really peaked. The early cycle check is to see how the compounds are when they're starting to peak in your system. The mid-cycle is when everything is absolutely at its worst, when it's the most toxic. So this is going to be the next most important set of bloods that you're going to have to get here. You're also going to see how your hormones are at this point. Is your test in an optimal range? Is your estrogen crashing? Is it in an influx? Is your prolactin fucked? You're going to figure that shit out here. And you will get the most accurate markers at that mid-cycle point. Your post-cycle check is the next set of labs you have to do about 4 to 6 weeks after the last injection and after your post-cycle therapy. So this is to make sure that your body's fully recovered, to make sure that nothing is lingering, whether it's liver stress, kidney stress, whether it's your blood, if it's thick, you want to make sure testosterone is back in range, your LH and FSH are back up where they have to be. This is all going to be from that post-cycle check. So very important part here. Now, this is an additional thing here. So anytime unexpected symptoms arise, example, gynoflare, high BP, or fatigue, you want to get a set of bloods done. And this is very common when you're first starting out. So when you first hop on, you're not going to know how test is going to react in your system. Assuming you're taking test only, you should be taking testosterone first for your first blast. You're not going to know how it reacts. That means your AI is not going to be dialed, which means that possibly chances are your estrogen is going to be increasing, which will cause symptoms as such, the gyno flare, the BP, the fatigue. So this is going to be very predominant early on in your enhancement career. You want to make sure that whenever you get any type of side, whether it's that inflammation, whether it's mood swings, whatever, go get a hormone panel. Make sure that everything is in check. Okay, so that's going to be very important. Now, your hormone panel, this is your core test, specifically taking a cycle. It's going to make sure that the compounds are actually working. It's not fake shit. So your total T and free T is going to gauge the dosing effect. So obviously the higher the test, the higher the dose you're going to be taking. But some people are going to be more, some people will be more, what's the goddamn word? I can't think of the fucking word, but some people are going to be more, the compound will hit them harder than others. So some people can get away with taking a lower dose of tests and they'll be fine. Their test levels will be at fucking 1,500, 2,000. Some people have to take a higher dose of tests for this. It's just based on individual response. But for your average person, obviously the higher the dose of test, the higher your test values are going to go. The lower dose, the lower your test values are going to be. But you will gauge your dosing effect based on your total test and free test. So you want your testosterone to be in a super physiological range when you're on blast, of course. So you want it to be above that reference range always when you're on a blast. You don't want it to be in like the healthy, optimal, natty range, which is like the 600, 900 range. You want it to be well above that. It should be well above that if you're on a blast. That's anywhere from 200, 400, 500, 600 milligrams a test. It should be well above this. If it's not, then I would question where you're getting the gear from, because chances are it's probably low dose or bunk. Now, estradiol E2 ultrasensitive is going to be another part of the hormone panel. This is to monitor estrogen balance. Very important part here. Estradiol, of course, crashed or elevated estradiol can cause SIDE. So very important aspect here, especially when starting out. DHT is going to be optional, but useful prone to hair loss or prostate issues. Now, this is going to be included in most hormone panels, but sometimes it doesn't come with a basic hormone panel. You do have to add it on the side. Now, DHT is going to be very important if you're running a DHT derivative, MAS, VAR. Compound like this that will cause hair loss, masculine side effects. When your DHT is increased, that means that you're going to have more masculine related sides, facial hair growth, a stronger jawline, hair loss, shit like this, but also prostate problems. So some people are going to be prone to this regardless, even while taking test. So I would add this to your blast if, for example, you have hair loss in your family, if your father, if your grandfather, assuming the fact you're male, which you should be if you're watching this, if they are going bald or if they are bald, then I would definitely be adding this to my test, because that means that you probably are going to be prone to DHT related sides. Now, LH and FSH as well, usually suppress, but confirmed shutdown extent. I put usually suppressed, it's always going to be suppressed, okay? When you're on blast, if you're not taking like enclomiphene or if you're not taking some type of PCT compound during the blast, which you shouldn't be doing that shit, it's just extra toxicity that's unneeded, then it's going to be suppressed. Any hormone you take, test, FAR, Tren, DECA, it's all going to suppress you. So your LH and FSH should be tanked. This is to be expected. Do not be alarmed when you get your bloods done and this shit shows that it's at borderline fucking 0. That is to be expected. But you don't want it to stay suppressed after the blast. That's the point of the post-cycle therapy. You want to make sure these go back up into range to ensure that your natural hormone production is back and producing testosterone the way it should be. Prolactin as well. Important if you're using 19-NORs. Example, NPP, DECA, Tren. NPP, DECA are both nandrolone, and then Tren. These are 19-NORs. They can spike prolactin, which can cause gyno, very similar sides to estradiol, but you can also lactate from your nipples when it comes to prolactin. Not wanted. Obviously, you don't want to be running into this shit on your blast. But this is a very important part here. Okay, my girl's calling me. You need to... Hold up, let me send her a message. Can I call you later? Filming... boot camp. Putting my phone on Do Not Disturb, sorry. All right, back to this shit. So, prolactin. Another very important point here. Okay, so general health panel, your core. This is another very important part of your labs in general and monitoring your health. So your CBC, I always have to get this shit done. This is something that I have to get done very frequently. Like pretty much every 3 weeks, I'm getting this shit done because my genetically, I do have thicker blood. I come from a family of runners. Our RBC hematocrit hemoglobin values are all fucking raised. Okay, when you're athletic, this should be increased. It's going to give you a performance edge. But you don't want it to get too thick, because if it gets too thick, your blood is basically moving around like sludge, and that can lead to a blood clot, a stroke. Very fatal outcome with that. So your CBC is going to make sure that your blood is flowing smooth with these 3 values. And it's a very important aspect to get tested. It is common to see elevated blood thickness when you're on cycle, specifically taking high dose tests. Some people are more prone to others, but you have to make sure you're on top of this. Now, your CMP is going to be for your organ function, kidneys and livers primarily. Liver, not fucking livers, your kidney and your liver function. So your CMP, it is going to make sure that you're not running into damage, you're not running into elevated stress. Chances are, if you're pushing orals, your liver is going to be stressed, okay? So taking supplements like NAC, TUDCA, milk thistle, shit like that will bring it back into range. You're not going to know if it's stressed to the point where you need to take these unless you get this fucking done. So you have to monitor that to make sure that even if you are taking the advised supplements, to make sure that your liver is in check, you want to make sure that you're taking enough and your liver isn't getting stressed beyond what it should be, okay? And same goes with your kidneys. If you're taking like growth, insulin, this is going to get absolutely fucked. Your kidneys will get fucked. Now, keep in mind, you only get one set of kidneys. If you fuck these up, you're going to have to get a transplant. I've gone over this in a previous segment. You don't want this shit to happen. This is when massive problems happen. You get on fucking dialysis, and then there isn't an unlimited supply of kidneys in the US. Okay, you get put on a waiting list. If you don't have the prime fucking insurance, or you don't have a shit ton of money sitting at your disposal, you're gonna get put on a fucking wait list, and you might not even get the goddamn kidney if you need a fucking transplant. So keep in mind, it's a death sentence if you fuck up your kidneys. So do not do this. Always stay on top of your CMP. Lipid panel, your HDL and LDL and triglycerides, very important as well for your cardiovascular health. You want to make sure that your cholesterol is always in range. Very important aspect of monitoring your health. Fasting glucose, HbA1c, monitor insulin sensitivity, specifically taking compounds like growth and shit like that will fuck with your insulin. That's going to be that. Cardiovascular health. Okay, blood pressure at home. You want to get a cuff. Make sure you have a cuff. At least test it 3 times a week. You want this to be below 130/80 at all times. Obviously, the best possible point for it to be at is 120/80. But as long as it's below 130/80 on your blast, you're going to be fine. Just keep in mind, when you're on cycle, your BP is probably going to be elevated past that prime natural point. But as long as it's below 130/80 on the cycle only, you're going to be good. Now, if you get off the cycle and it's still pushing on average 130/80, then there's a problem. It should be well below this. But while you're on blast, less than 130/80. Now, your resting heart rate and EKG as well, baseline and as needed. Now, I have a fucking Whoop. I got this shit. Amazing fucking investment. Get an Oura Ring. Get a fucking Apple Watch that can monitor your heart rate. Very important stuff, because if your heart rate is elevated, resting heart rate, you're not going to know unless you're tracking it. And if it stays elevated for too long, you're at risk. That could be an underlying sign that something's going wrong in your cardiovascular system, okay? Your EKG is going to make sure that your heart is pumping smooth. It's a more professional test. Now, yes, an Apple Watch and some fucking devices, like there's a device on Amazon you can get for very cheap. You put your fingers on it, it tests your electrocardiogram. This is not the most accurate way to do this. I would go into a doctor or to a cardiologist. They strap up a bunch of wires to your chest. Okay, and they are going to professionally test this with their third-party equipment that they use at the doctor. I would heavily advise doing that shit. Just going to make sure that you know for a fact everything is good. Your heart's beating properly. There's no weird fucking arrhythmias or weird shit happening with your heart in general. If there is anything weird, it will show up there, and then you would get prompted to get an echocardiogram if there's anything fucked on the EKG. But your EKG is your baseline. So make sure you do that shit. I would get this tested about twice a year. Twice a year is all you really need to do if you're pushing mild blast. If you're going more over the top and you're taking advanced cycles, I probably would get this done once every cycle. So if you're taking like a 3-month cycle, get it done before the cycle. get it done after the cycle. If you're taking a 4-month cycle, it's going to be every 4 months, okay, in the time period that you get these done. Now your echo, every 1 to 2 years for serious users, as I just mentioned. Now, I personally got this done. I think you should get this done prior to hopping on. Regardless, it is going to give you a way better in-depth look at your heart. You're literally going to be able to see your heart. It's an ultrasound of your heart. So you're going to be able to see it on the screen when the nurse is doing the fucking thing. It's like a girl when she's pregnant, right? They're doing the ultrasound on her stomach. You can see the baby. Basically, it's like that, but with your heart. You see your heart fucking pumping in front of you. You get that overwhelming feeling that like, oh shit, my heart, like this is a real thing. Some people, they can't see the inside of their body. They're like, fuck it, I don't care what I do. When you see that heart on that screen, bro, and it's pumping right there in front of you, you're like, okay, this is real. I need to take care of this thing. It's literally taking care of my body. It's allowing me to live type shit. So you want to make sure that you get this done, and it's going to tell you everything about your heart. If you have any heart diseases, any type of regurgitations in any type of valves in your heart, it's going to tell you if you have anything at all going wrong. Okay, it's going to show you in the echo, and you will be able to see all those data sets on your results. Okay. Next up is apolipoprotein B and lipoprotein A, advanced lipid markers, which are going to be very important as well for your cardiovascular system. Now, moving on here, liver and kidney specifics. AST and ALT. Two of the main factors when it comes to your livers. I forgot to put alkaline phosphatase as well. Very important. All three of these are going to measure out your liver enzymes. Make sure that your liver is not stressed. Okay. Typically, again, I mentioned this earlier, if you're taking orals, you're taking Anavar, Halotessin, Anadrol, compounds like this, Winstrol, it's going to stress your liver. So these biomarkers will be elevated. That's just normal, okay? You're putting foreign substances into your liver. That's why whenever you take an OTC med like Advil or ibuprofen, it's going to stress your liver because it has to get processed in the liver. That means your liver is working overtime to process that fucking pill, okay? So it is normal for these to be elevated. You don't want them to be elevated too high. That's a sign that your liver is getting damaged, and that can lead to severe, like, honestly, liver failure in the future if you leave that shit untreated. But you obviously don't want to damage your liver at all. You don't want these to be elevated. Again, taking supplements like Nactuca milk thistle can bring that back down. But you always want to make sure you're on top of your liver. Now, GGT is more sensitive for a liver strain from orals, not necessary to get, but you should get it. If you're taking a massive stack of orals, I would highly advise getting this as well. Now, your creatinine and EGFRs for your kidney function, the main two factors, along with your BUN, are going to be for your kidney. So if your kidney's getting stressed, that means that you're taking some type of compound like high-dose tren, like growth, like insulin, okay? And it's just going to be a disaster if this stays elevated and you don't know about it. So you really, like I mentioned earlier, get one set of kidneys. Okay, I'm not going to fucking repeat myself again, but you have to make sure you're on top of these factors. Same goes with your BUN, hydration and kidney stress marker. Okay. Next up is your other optional / advanced markers here. So your CRP for C-reactive protein is for inflammation. Again, these are optional, but advised. Now, keep in mind, bloods do cost money. It's an out-of-pocket expense. It's not free unless you go to the doctor and you're telling them you have fucking symptoms, which you can do that if you want, but it's not going to work if you have to go in frequently. They're going to know some shit's up, okay? So CRP for your inflammation, PSA for prostate. Now, this is specifically for older users. If you're above the age of like 40 plus, I would start getting the PSA. Or if you have high DHT exposure, I've had prostate issues in the past. I'm very young, okay? Because if you're taking high amounts of DHTs, it can fuck with your prostate. So, and that will cause you to pee all the fucking time, and it's just not fucking good, bro. So, you want to make sure that you have this, again, if you're older or taking high amounts of DHT derivatives. Thyroid panel as well, your TSH, T3, and T4 of metabolism shifts heavily. This is going to be very important as well, your thyroid, just to regulate metabolism. Now, practical tips, the last part here is going to be to always use the same lab provider for consistency, because you have to keep in mind that when you get different set of labs from different companies, there's different reference ranges. There's different data sets that they test for. It's all going to be similar, but it's all different. It's best to use one lab so you just have consistent data with the same reference ranges, the same data points, so that you can monitor everything very closely, okay? And make sure that nothing is often anyway. You always want to fast 8 to 12 hours before the blood draw, especially for lipids and glucose, but you want to always fast 12 hours. I would go, if you can't because your schedule 8 at the bare minimum, but always go 12, bro. You don't want to go in with any type of food in your system. You want to get the best, most accurate possible results. And the way you're going to do that is by fasting for 12 hours. So you always want to make sure you do that. You want to track trends, not just single numbers. So if there is specific things happening across different biomarkers that are synergistic with each other, that could be a sign that something is going wrong with one of your organs, that something is going wrong with your cardiovascular system. You want to track trends. Don't just track numbers trying to get that shit back into range. Obviously, you want everything to be in range, but you want to track trends over time. That's why this is a longer game. You don't just go and get your bloods done once and know what's going on. You at least need about like 5-6 sets of bloods to really get a good idea on how your body's reacting naturally and with the compounds in your system. So keep that shit in mind. Now, most important part here, you want to combine your labs with your daily blood pressure and heart rate tracking for a full health picture. This is a very important point as well. You want to make sure that you have all this shit in a very clear understanding of what's happening. It's not just the labs. People say that, here, let me make this fucking bigger because this is important. It's not just labs. So people say get your bloods done, and as long as you're on top of your bloods, you're good. That's not everything. That's like the very start of what you have to do with your health. But if you really want to stay proactive, you have to make sure your blood pressure's in check, your heart rate is in check, your heart doesn't have anything fucked going on with it. There's no plaque, there's no regurgitations, there's no type of valve issues. Okay, and that's why you get the EKG and the echo. You want to make sure that your calcium's in check. Like, there's so many things that you have to stay on top of. It's not just the labs. And you want to have an overall picture of all this shit. So you want to have the blood pressure cuff. You want to make sure you're tracking those results. You want to have your heart rate tracker, okay? Make sure you're tracking the results. Have your labs. Get at least 3 to 4 done during your first cycle. Have all those results with you so that at the end of the blast, you have all this data out in front of you, just laid out, and you can start piecing together the puzzle on what's happening. That's going to be the most clear-cut way to do this the right way. Now, obviously, it sounds a little fucking complicated. If you're new, it is going to be. But once you get the hang of this shit, once you do some research, you get someone to guide you, it's very simple. Okay, after your first cycle, you're going to be a pro at this shit, but it's the first cycle that is the learning curve. That's when you have to do all this shit properly so that you don't fuck up in the future. So that's going to be that with the monitoring your health aspect of this. Our next segment is going to be training modifications for enhanced recovery, adapting to faster recovery rates, a very important section. Now, my plan here is to be done with this series before Halloween. Okay, we got about a month. I can easily pump out the next 10 parts of this in the next month. So I'm going to be coming in hot with this shit, guys. Like and subscribe if you like this, and leave me a comment below. I'm still answering all your comments. This is a new channel still. So I'll be back soon, guys. Peace.